Now, in about 2 minutes' time, Barack Obama will be giving an Oval Office address to the country to discuss further the disaster in the Gulf region. While we wait for the president, let's go to Washington, our bureau. Solon Simmons is a professor at George Mason University's Institute for Conflict Analysis and Resolution. He specializes in American politics. Solon, thanks for being with us. Nice to have you here. We've got a couple of minutes to chat before we hear from the president. We do have some idea about what he is going to say tonight. What do you think he needs to say to send the message to the American people that he's in control of this crisis?
Well, any message from the Oval Office is a big one, and whether it's Lyndon Johnson after urban riots or George Bush after 9/11. And this is a big moment for President Obama. As you say, he's got to convey a sense of command and a sense that things are under control. He's got to do it in the short run, in the sense of booms, cleaning up the oil, protecting the coastline. He's got to do it in the medium term, in terms of making sure that the oil production is safe. And he's also got to do it in the long term, in the sense of a new energy policy. What is the clean energy strategy for the future? The president had the misfortune that he got on the wrong side of this debate in a way by downplaying the oil flow in the beginning. He didn't get on the side of the scientists that have now been proven right, that the oil flow is around maybe 50,000 barrels a day. It's a huge problem, and so he needs to, now that he recognizes that, he needs to convey to people what it is exactly that America is going to do to deal with it.
I may have to cut you off. We're just going to stop right here. I believe we have the president now up. We'll join you in just a few minutes. Solon, thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome back. So just moments ago, we heard from U.S. President Barack Obama talking to the nation about the crisis in the Gulf region and outlining his plan moving forward. He spoke almost on time. We were expecting about 15 minutes. He went about 18 minutes. Joining me now to talk more about what we just heard from the president is Solon Simmons. He's a professor at George Mason University's Institute for Conflict Analysis and Resolution. He's joining us tonight, as always, from Washington. Hello once again. So, what did you make of the president's remarks?
I think it was a pretty good speech. I think it was a fairly tough speech, a thorough speech. He dealt with BP and the problems that they've caused. He says that they're going to pay for everything. There's going to be an independent body in this escrow account. He's going to meet with them tomorrow to make sure that that's true. He dealt with the short-term problems as well and concern. He brought the human issue in. He dealt with some of his own failings in this process and turned them from failings into reasonable actions. For example, he mentioned how he had approved proposals for new offshore drilling and said that that was only under condition that the drilling would be safe. Obviously, that wasn't true. No drilling was actually approved, just proposals. He also said that right away when he came into office, of course, he had wars and recession, what have you, to deal with, but even so, he had Ken Salazar going to the Department of Interior and cleaning up this Bureau of the Minerals Management Service, which had so many problems, including sex scandals and other things. And he said he dealt with the worst of the corruption, but didn't do enough, and so they're going to deal with that as well. Very powerful, even brought in issues of foreign threat and how the United States needs to get off oil. The one thing I would say he did not do was say, this is the line in the sand. We're going to have a carbon tax on all carbon-based fuels, and we're going to move forward to that by the end of the year. He didn't say that. He went with his bottom-up approach, the idea, this is the Obama style. I'm going to get all the congressional ideas out there, the American people's ideas. We're going to work with those things, and we're going to let the best ideas rise, and I will settle on the best of those. That's very much his style. People have criticized him for that with the health care reform. We'll see how well this one works because it's just as big. But we have the Obama signature style once again in play.
And I thought he also made it sound as though we're all in this together. And he used language like fight and battle, as though, in a sense, this was a war against the American people.
Well, you know, it sure feels like it. And I think if you're in the Gulf region, it's hard to imagine something worse. In thinking of, you know, we're struggling for metaphors to make sense of this thing. He called it an epidemic. I might think of it as something more like the 2008 market crash. But there's also a sense that this is like a nuclear bomb, that we let this technology be in the hands of a private company, and there was no one in control. And so now we are in a battle. It's a battle that we could have maybe prevented, and yet nevertheless it's going to happen. Let's just say that the one thing that's fairly obvious in all this, even though they hope to get 90% of the oil collected, even still, it's out until August until this problem is solved, and it's been that way. I think people have known that for quite a long time. So the battle is going to rage for a long time, which can change. The politics will evolve over the long term. even though he hasn't suffered that much yet, he may still, if he doesn't get on the right side of this.
And I want to drill down, pardon the pun, a little bit more on that point with you, because the president has been accused of being detached in this crisis, of not being there. How damaging do you think this has been to his presidency thus far?
Well, you know, there is a good part of this for him, which is that this is not his Achilles heel. You know, if this were Dick Cheney and George Bush in office, you could bet that they'd be in a lot of trouble. But you know, he did run against the party of drill, baby, drill. He was always the responsible party in this debate. He says, yes, I'll have some drilling, and yet we don't want to just go forward with that willy-nilly. So it isn't really his weakness. It's actually strange that he's suffering as much as he is, because as far as I'm concerned, he had an opportunity to get on what I would call the right side of this issue by siding with the scientists in terms of the flow rates and doing the public work that would be necessary to show the American people that he's concerned. Now, behind the scenes, I think he feels he's been doing everything he can. The federal government did not have the equipment or the expertise to deal with this issue, with a crisis, and with the specific technology problems, and so he's been coordinating as best he can. The optics are different from what's going on behind the scenes. Governing is different than campaigning. We saw a little bit of the campaigner come back tonight, which was somewhat refreshing to see, and we'll see how this plays with the American people by tomorrow.
Indeed, and he just came back from his 4th visit today. He flew in late today to make this address at 8 o'clock Eastern Time from the Oval Office. Solon Simmons, always great to have you on. Thank you very much for this. Appreciate it.
Great to be back, Marcia.